If you have a basement and you want to protect it from flooding, then stay tuned. This video is for you. This is a departure from my typical videos on photography and technology, but it is much more aligned with the theme of the channel, which is called Real World. Now, I created this channel with the idea of helping people with everyday real-world problems and challenges, and that's really what this is all about. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, an ounce of prevention is worth its weight in gold, but that is what this video is really keen on. Now, I live in a house where I have a basement, and I've lived in a few different houses with basements, and I've had my basement flood on me before, and that is no fun, and it's a costly endeavor to try and fix everything and repair everything. And I assure you that this video will help to build that redundancy into any given basement so that you can sleep a little better at night and hopefully help safeguard your investment so it doesn't flood on you and you're faced with all these costly repairs and the involvement of insurance and all of that troublesome stuff that comes along with it. I'm going to talk real quick about two pieces of particular technology that I have in the pit. I'll talk more about them when I get back there. It's going to be a little dark, and that's the reason why I want to do it right here. So this right here is the Govee water protection system. Now, they're not paying me. I'm not sponsored here. I went out and bought this on my own, and I've had this now for, I don't know, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, and I can tell you that it was just, I think it was earlier this spring or maybe late last fall, but this saved me. This saved me 100%. It went off in the wee hours of the morning, and I'll talk more about it. I'll show you how I have it set up in the pit. And this right here is awesome. I'll put a link in the description below on some of this stuff, so that way if you want to go check it out, you can. One other piece is this right here. It's called PumpFuse. Now, the beauty about this product is that there are so many people out there, they have no idea how often their pumps run. They don't know if they got a wet basement or not. It's what we call wet basements. You know, if you get, do you have a lot of water that gets into your pump and then or into your pit, and how often does it run? No, nobody knows, you know, and I mean, I've asked my friends and neighbors and everyone's clueless on it, even myself, up until this product right here. When I spotted this product, I was like, oh, I got to get my hands on this thing, which I did. And I'm going to show you this as well. There's an app for this. There's an app for the Govee piece. I'll show you how it trends and all that good stuff. So with that said, again, it's going to be a little dark back in here. I'm going to set some lights up, but I'm going to show you how it's architected, and I'm going to talk about the different components and how I use them. So let's go make that happen. We'll go into the utility room, and you can see it's kind of messy in here, but I did try to set up a light so it'll help us take a better look at the sump pit along with what's around it and in it. Right below my finger is the main utility pump, and this is a 1/3 horsepower. It might be a half, but I think it's a 1/3, and it is full cast iron. Now, I've had plastic housings and I've had the full cast irons, and I can tell you that the full cast iron is the way to go. It costs a little more, but it's also much, much quieter, and I think it's just more efficient and it runs better. Right next to it here is the utility pump, and this is just a basic utility pump. It has no built-in switch on it. I actually got this from my brother. He was getting ready to throw it out, and I said, I will gladly take that off your hands. Now, the switch for the main pump over here, you can see it's right there. It's just that little white piece right down there, and it's just a float. I don't know how well we'll be able to see it on the video, but when the water comes up, the float comes up and it turns the pump on, and it'll run till the water goes back down. The float drops and the pump shuts off. And most sump pumps, they have built-in switches like that right there, and it just works really, really well. Now with the utility pump, again, it does not have a built-in switch. So how does this work? Well, before I get on that, let's just talk real quick about the main pump and how I have this wired up. Now, you can see that the power cord is right here, right where my finger is, and I'm just going to follow this. We're going to trace it. It comes right back here and up right where my hand is, and then right here and up a little higher and higher and higher, and you'll see it's plugged in to the main outlet right up here. Now this is the PumpFuse. This is the brains of keeping track of how often the pump runs. And if the power's out, it'll send failure notices. It can send notifications for when the pump starts, when it stops, all that good stuff. I'm going to show you the application here in just a few moments, but this is the brains behind it, and that's what's happening here. So the main pump, again, is just wired up to the main outlet, and it's connected into this. It just plugs right into it. It's real simple. So let's talk about the utility pump and how we have this wired up. Now, if there's no built-in switch, you might be thinking, well, then how does this activate? Well, I bought a secondary switch and got it off Amazon. You can also get them at the big box stores. I'll post a link in the description in case you're interested, but the switch is right here, right below my finger. And this switch is just, it's just tied on to the PVC tube right here. And it is actually set to go up higher than the switch over there, than the float switch on the main pump. And the reason for that is if the main pump fails, the water comes up, it doesn't turn on for whatever reason, it'll come up higher and higher and eventually flip the switch to our utility pump here, and then the utility pump kicks on. So how does this work? Well, here is the power for the utility pump. And this is only powered if the switch goes on. So you can see the switch power cable's right here, the utility pump's right there, and let's follow and see where these go. So I'm going to show you right here. It comes up on the back side, and I got my hands on it right here, and it runs. So these two power cords run right up here, and it comes back, and it comes right over to this little contraption. Now, you know, I don't know how well we'll be able to see this. It's a little dark here, but it runs into right where my hand is, and this plugs into a power converter. And that's what this is doing. It's converting 12 volt to our AC current so it can run the utility pump and the switch. Now, this is a modified swine. It is not pure swine. You don't need pure swine for a utility pump. So I don't want to really get into all that. If you're more interested between pure swine and modified swine, just let me know. Maybe I'll do another video on it. But your modified swine is going to be cheaper. This one, I just bought it from Harbor Freight. You can get these from just about anywhere. It's nothing super special. But you can see that this is powered by a deep cycle marine battery, which is what we have right here. Power cables run out of the power converter, and you'll see it just uses the alligator clips here and here, and we're good. Now, you'll also notice I have wires running back to the battery from this, and you might be thinking, what is this right here? Well, this is connected here to the Black & Decker trickle charger. Now, that trickle charger is what's used to keep this deep cycle marine battery juiced up throughout the year, throughout any given time. It takes very, very little power, and this just plugs into the main outlet right up here. So that's how your deep cycle marine battery stays fully charged. I just picked this up from Walmart. It's nothing super special, but it's here if your power ever goes out in your house. This will power your, leverage the power converter here, which powers your utility pump. And again, this is only if all of this is needed if your power goes out. So I do have a lot of redundancy built in, and there's one more piece, and that is this. This is the Govee. It's the water detection piece. Now you'll see I have two little wires, and they're just kind of wrapped together. It's coming right off it. Now I soldered these wires to the bottom leads on the Govee detection piece here. And these little wires, it's a very, very small gauge. I got these wires out of a Cat 5 cable. Now, if you're not familiar with Cat 5, but you're familiar with, say, computers and like working in an office, when you connect your office machine to, say, the wall, to the network, you do that typically with a Cat 5 cable. Now, I cut a Cat 5 cable open, and they have these little twisted pairs in here, and that's all this is. And these are great little wires. You probably have Cat 5 cabling, you know, in a lot of different places. So that's all this is. And again, it runs down, and I have it connected right here. It's just wrapped around this main tube, and then it goes down, and you can see it right there by my finger. And what it does at the bottom is I just spread them apart, and it forks like this right here. And it actually sits right between that float over there on the main pump and the float for my utility pump. So if the water comes up and this pump fails, the water will make contact with that wire and set off the alarm. Now, the Govee alarm, it's audible. right here. You'll see it has a little sound built in, but more importantly, it'll send text messages and email notifications. And that is what saved me earlier this year. So it was just a big, big savings. But that will go off. Then this pump, the switch will trigger and the utility pump kicks in. So that is how all of this is set up. And that's kind of the architecture that I have put together here for my pit. It's time for a show and tell of the Govee system. So you'll see the applications right here on my phone called Govee Home. And when you first open this up, you'll be at the home screen right here. There's a lot of things you can do with this, but I really want to focus on the device. And this is the 3 devices that I have that are all tied to the water detection system. One is the sump pit, the other one is the attic, and I have another one for the water heater. Keep in mind, you can place these devices anywhere you have the potential for a leak, like maybe underneath a sink or by a toilet. I'm going to go ahead and select the sump pit. And what's really, really cool about this is that I have not erased the data logs. And this is when this device saved my butt. So you can see it first started here at 2:19 in the morning on 8/30/2022. So it's been a little longer than a year. It's hard to believe, but actually it's been just over 2 years that this happened. So at 2:19 in the morning, you'll see this notification went out saying, hey, there's something going on with your sump pit. It's detected a water leakage. And that is where those 2 wires make contact with the water. And then it'll just continue to go off, just like it did. Now, at some point in here, this woke me up. My backup pump, that utility pump, was working and taking care of everything. And when I got up and came down and looked at it, I was smiling, knowing that, this thing really, really saved me. And this went on for most of the day until I could get it fixed. And I think I was testing it out more and all that good stuff. But yeah, so this is the Govee system. And again, it just works out great. The application's solid. It's smooth. I have no issues with it. You can see my batteries running low there on the sump pit. This just takes, I believe it's a couple of AAA batteries. I think it's triple or double. I want to say it's triple, though. Just regular batteries. It's not a big deal. So next up, let's go take a look at the PumpFuse application. So a quick demo on the PumpFuse application, which you can see I have installed on my phone here. And when you open it up, this will show you the devices that you have connected. And keep in mind, you can have multiple devices. I just have the one, but you can connect this device to anything that requires the power and an on-off. And it'll monitor the consumption, and if it fails to start, you can set thresholds and all of that. So I've named my device Sump Pump Power, but of course you can name it anything you want. And this is just connected to my Wi-Fi. So you can see the information right here, and I think it is very, very helpful. Now this is over the last 30 days. As I mentioned earlier, I've had this maybe a couple of months, but this will show you the consumption and different analytics of this application and what your pump is doing in this particular case. So you can see the number of runs right here on the left-hand side, and it also gives you the option to select how many times it's failed and the total usage time, which is really nice, and of course power consumption. So right now we're just looking at the total number of runs in the last 30 days, and you'll see it's run 187 times, and you have this nice bar chart here kind of showing you a depiction of the number of runs that has occurred on each day. And when you slide down, you can see the individual runs, and it's just showing you the last 2 days. And if you select any particular run, like let's go ahead and take the one that ran this morning at 4:18 a.m. It's only run one time today. And as you may or may not have been able to tell through the video, the water was fairly stagnant as it sat in the pit. But when we click on that particular run, it shows you this interesting graph, and this is about the power consumption and how long it ran. So it ran for a total of 4 seconds. And you can see where the power consumption peaks at the start and then runs steady and then fades off at the end. And if we had failures, I can go ahead and select failures, and you can see I had 0 failures, which is great. That's where it's indicating that the pump failed to run. Now, what was the total time spent of that run? I find this really interesting, 13 minutes and 54 seconds. So if you took all the individual runs and you put them together, it ran for a total of 13 minutes, 54 seconds. So I just think that's really interesting. And then you also have, you'll see it says 77% down from the previous period. And again, I haven't really had it that long. Let's go 7 days. So it'll compare this week to the previous week, and you'll see that it's 28% down. Well, there you have it. That is a relatively quick educational video, and it's not something that many people think about until it's too late. So I encourage you to share this video, to take action if you have a basement or a sump pit or a pump. This goes in line with, again, an ounce of prevention is worth its weight in gold. So take a moment out of your day to evaluate your situation and plan for redundancy. I just think it's really, really important, and it doesn't take too long. I mean, this really wasn't that difficult. So I hope this has given you some motivation to take a closer look at your situation or share this with some friends and family to help them out. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. It's called Real World. More often than not, I post videos about photography and technology, but you never know. So until the next video, take care of yourself and be safe.